want to start this video saying I'm sorry if I sound really hoarse or if I look really bad, because I've been sick for the past 2 weeks and I've been putting this off and putting this off, but today is November the 12th and I can't put it off any longer, so here it is. Hello! This is my October wrap-up and my November TBR, I guess. As you can tell, I am not feeling well and I haven't been for the past couple of weeks, so the end of October didn't do too well for me, but I did really good in reading in the beginning of the month. I read 3 books and 1 novella, and I started reading another book, but I'll get to that whenever we get to the TBR portion. The first book I read in October was Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. It did seem a little juvenile at points, but the main character is only 18. I believe it's her freshman year of college. I really enjoyed the fan fiction part of this. It's kind of hard to talk about this one since I've read Carry On, which is the second book. In this, Kath is attending her first year of college and she writes Simon and Baz fanfiction, which are characters in a book series that's similar to Harry Potter, and the author is getting ready to put out the 8th book in the series, which is the final book in the series, and she is writing a fanfiction for her version of what she believes the final book in the series should be. And this is her story of dealing with college and being an introvert in a very new setting. Also dealing with college along with dealing with trying to find time for writing her fanfiction, which I found really cool because it shows a side of dealing with doing your hobby versus dealing with real life, which I really enjoyed. And one thing that I didn't like about this book, which is actually why I gave it 4 stars, is something that they actually talk about during the book. I thought it was kind of fun that they ended the book like that, but I also hate books that end like that, so I couldn't condone it for ending it like that. And it's not really a spoiler or anything, but during the book she explains how fan fictions just kind of stop. There's no real ending to them because like fan fiction never ends. This book just stops. Like there's no real ending, and I hate when books do that, so I couldn't condone giving this book a 5 out of 5 whenever it did something that I hate. But I also I think I ended up giving it a 4.5 because during the book she talks about how fan fictions end like that, and then the book ended like that. And I don't know, it drives me nuts, but I see why she did it, I guess. But 4.5 out of 5 stars for Fangirl. And of course, the next book I read was Carry On by Rainbow Rowell, which came out on October 6th. And I gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars. In the beginning of the book, you kind of feel like you're just dropped into the middle of a story, which you kind of are because this is supposed to be like an 8th book in a series, or this is Kath's fanfiction. This is the fanfiction she was writing during Fangirl. So this is her version of the 8th book in the series, so you kind of are dropped into the middle of a story, which is cool, but I thought that maybe it should have a little bit more. I don't know, I like books that touch on stuff that happened in the previous books, but I kind of want those books now. Like I want the story of Simon and Baz that, oh, what's that author's name supposed to be? Oh, it's not in here, it's in Fangirl. The Gemma T. Leslie story. So I would really like the first 7 books, I guess, the Gemma T. Leslie books, even though they're kind of loosely based on Harry Potter, this is kind of like if Harry and Draco got together. That's what the basis I heard of what this book was. It's two enemies that fall in love, and if you read Fangirl, that's not a huge mystery, so that's not really a spoiler. I don't know if it touches on that in the beginning of this or not, so that could be a spoiler if you just read Carry On. Whoops. Sorry. But it's based in England, and it's based in like a wizarding world, so it has those things in common with Harry Potter, but everything else is different. Like characters, everything else is different. I gave this a 5 out of 5. I could barely put it down. I had to because I had obligations like work and sleep and all that nice stuff. But 5 out of 5 stars. I would recommend, if you are going to read both Carry On and Fangirl, read Fangirl first, because it'll give you a little bit of a background to the characters and their story to go off of when you read Carry On. You can read Carry On by itself, you can read Fangirl by itself, so they're not a duology. They are truly companion novels, which is amazing. Like I said, I would read Fangirl first before reading Carry On if you're going to read both of them. The next book I read in October was Unwind by Neil Shusterman, and I have been meaning to read this for a while because of Raylene over at Padfoot and Progs 07. God, I can't even say her name. My throat's messed up. She raves about this series, and I picked it up for $1 at a used bookstore and figured I'd give it a chance. I read it during October because the whole concept is between the ages of 13 and 17, your parents can have you unwound, which is essentially dismembering you and taking your body apart and donating your pieces to other people. So it's like extreme organ donor program, which is really weird. And they have this thing, it's like they don't believe you die, they believe you are just being taken apart and that you will live in these other people. So people who are religious might find a little bit of an issue with this because of, one, the belief that whenever you are unwound, like, you're still living, you don't die. Two, they have what's called tithes in this, which are kids who from the point they're born are destined to be unwound in the name of God. They are church-going people who have kids just to unwind them. I wouldn't say that's spoilery, it's something that happens fairly early in the book. It doesn't show it in the... It mentions tithes on the back, but it doesn't really mention that it's a religious thing. So I just want to put that out there for people who are religious. You might have an issue with this if you feel strongly about, I don't know, reincarnation, or like how people's bodies are supposed to be dealt with whenever they die and things like that. You might have a little bit of an issue with this book. It was really creepy. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. I don't know if I mentioned that already. The only thing that I had a little bit of an issue with was the pacing of the story was kind of weird. You jump back and forth between different characters, and so the pacing gets a little weird. But other than that, I really enjoyed this. And the novella that I read during October is from Geektastic Stories from the Nerd Herd. I read It's a Jump to the Left by Libba Bray, and I would give it probably a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I know the characters in it are very young, but it was very juvenile. They didn't really know the true meaning behind the Rocky Horror. This girl is obsessed with Rocky Horror Picture Show, and her friend dress up and go to the Rocky Horror Picture Show viewing like every Friday. Apparently they have that in their town. I've never been in a town that's had that. So that's really interesting. There's a town nearby that does stuff for Halloween, and I've never gotten to go to it, which I kind of regret. Like, I'd really like to go to it and see what it's like, because I've never actually seen what anything is like of that firsthand. But the kids seem to be a little more juvenile and kind of naive than what I would expect from somebody who has watched Rocky Horror Picture Show and is obsessed with it like they are. It's hard to put into words. Just 3.5 out of 5 stars. I liked seeing about like what happens at the Rocky Horror Picture Show viewings that are like this, but I didn't really care for the characters, I guess. They were a little too young, or they just acted too young, or I'm not sure what it was. But I haven't read the rest of the stories in this. That was actually the last story in this. I'm not sure how to mark that on Goodreads, but whenever I read the rest of them, I will do like little reviews on the rest of them as well. TBR portion of this. So I mentioned how I was partially through a book at the end of October, and that book was Night Film by Marisha Pessel, and I got about 72, I got to page 73, so I got 72 pages into it, and I struggled through those 72 pages because I was sick, and I think now I'm on page 200 and something, so I'm still not very far into it, but I would like to finish this in November. One thing I will say about that, I set that down because I took the dust jacket off to read it because the dust jacket was getting messed up and it's very noisy. But one thing I will say about the Night Film, you have an app that you can download. It's a free download, it's a free app to go along with the book, and anytime you see a certain symbol on a page, you can scan the page. It says scan the symbol, but you scan that page and it gives you like extra content to go along with what's going on in the book at that point. And some of those are sound clips and some of them are videos, and if you're not ready for it, it'll freak you out, and it can freak out the people around you, because like one of them was a killer's testimony. During the book they mention all kinds of things that aren't directly related to the storyline, and one of them is about this guy who killed this little girl, and it's his testimony, and you scan the page and it starts him talking to a reporter like about what happened and like why he killed the little girl. And I scanned it while I was on break at work and freaked out the entire break room because it was, for one, it was loud and nobody was really expecting it to start playing like that. And what in the world was that noise? I think somebody's reading my water meter. Oh well. But there's like nobody was expecting it, and it was really loud, and then just what it was, like this guy talking about, describing why he killed this little girl, just freaked people out. And so I would recommend being very careful about when you scan those apps, because some of them are really creepy because the book's really creepy, and it can freak some people out. And like I said, it's like sound, a lot of it's sound, so some of it's stuff that you can read, more stuff to read, but a lot of it is sound, at least to the point that I've gotten to. So just be aware of where you scan those things at. Another book that I am in the middle of reading is Room by Emma Donoghue, and I am on page 22. I just received this in the mail, so this is a little bit of a sneak peek to my book haul, and I was getting really upset with the fact that I was reading Night Film so slowly, and this is only like a 300 page book, and Night Film's like 600 pages, So I figured I'd pick this up. It's a lighter book and it's lighter as well. So it's a shorter book. It's a lot lighter of a theme to it, at least so far it is. And I just figured I'd mix it up a little bit between the two of them. I would like to get these two books read in November. I do have a couple others as well. Illuminae by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. I would like to get this. It is similar to Night Film in the fact that there's all kinds of extra things. Like you can see the pages. They're not all white because they all have like pictures and words and all kinds of extra things in it. So if I get really into Night Film, I might continue and pick up Illuminae since it's the same type of a book. But what I would really like to do is reread Twilight by Stephanie Meyer so I can start on Life and Death, because I want to reread Twilight before I read Life and Death. And for those of you who don't know, Life and Death is supposed to be Twilight reimagined. That's what it says up here. But it's Twilight, it's gender-bent Twilight. So all the characters are the opposite gender as what they were in Twilight, except for Charlie and Renee. They're the only ones that are the same sex, but that is because of like child custody laws, and if they had been switched, then the story wouldn't be going the way that it goes. I have heard that the story is different, mainly because of the gender swaps, but also because there was stuff that Stephanie Meyer wished she had done differently, and she just decided to switch it in this. So yeah, I'd really like to get on with this. Since I am almost halfway through the month, I think I may pick up this next instead of Illuminae. Did I say that right? I have no idea. But those are the books that I would like to read in November and the books that I finished in October. So that's all I have for this video, and I'll see you next time.